all, I just love skiing. Like, so much. There's nothing in the world that brings me more joy, ever.
Scared to death right now, but I've got this. Like, I know deep down inside I'm capable of what I'm about to do.
I felt like the rehab was pretty simple and straightforward, and I learned how to appreciate my body and how to take care of it, what to eat, and like to stretch. I was 18, so I felt like I was invincible at the time.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to the Athletic Stance Podcast, a skier's perspective with your host, yours truly, Scott Chrisman. In this podcast, I have made it my job to go out and interview skiers at the highest level of the sport, to explore their perspective on life, what shaped and influenced them to become the person they are, and a whole lot more. First, let's take a look at our sponsors, because without them, none of this is possible. Our first sponsor is Northwest Tech. If you haven't heard of them yet, you're missing out. They hand make customizable 3-layer outerwear to order in the Pacific Northwest. And that means you know that it keeps you warm, dry, and looking unique while you're sending it around the mountain. They've been generous enough to give me a coupon code for my listeners. Use the code AOS75 to get $75 off any custom piece of outerwear. Their site is in the show notes. This episode is brought to you by POC. POC makes the best helmets, goggles, and protective wear out there. They've been dedicated to protecting athletes since day one, and I wouldn't wear a different helmet, goggle, back pad, or hip pads. With their spin technology and VPD system, there are no other products on the market that are like it. Definitely go and check out POCsports.com and protect yourself today.
What's up, guys? Welcome back to the Athletic Stance, episode number 25. We're going to do a little bit different style episode again this week. It's going to be a best of episode where I pick out a couple parts of my favorite interviews that I've done so far and explain what I took from it and how it's helped me thus far. And I hope that you guys really enjoy this. We're going to start out with Hadley Hammer and talking about diet and then move into the rest. Without further ado, the Athletic Stance.
Speaking of food and traveling and all that, like, do you have a specific diet that you try and keep to when you're home? Or do you, like a lot of the athletes that I've talked to so far, like, yeah, I try and keep it to this, but I let myself cheat quite often because I don't want to be, like, intolerant to things when I do travel?
Totally. Yeah, I agree with that. I think if you don't treat your body like a dump truck every once in a while when you go on trips, like, you'd be so wrecked if you were forced to eat particular food and it made you sick, and then what was the point? But for me, I love food so much, and I studied hospitality, so I studied food and wine. And it's always been super. It's like cooking for people is one of my favorite things in the world. So I don't think I'll ever have a specific diet. But what food I eat. But for me, it's just about really high quality food and local food. Like, I don't like cheap food. I think it's actually a huge problem in America. Our food system is so gnarly to me, and that's another reason why I like being in Europe all the time, because, I'll eat 8 croissants a day and be losing weight, and that it's because they don't have all these artificial things in their food. Like, it's crazy. You'll look at a box of apples that's shipped to a grocery store, and there's an ingredients label on the box, and it's more than just apple. And like, that's so messed up.
Yeah.
So for me, I really try to eat everything. Like, I like gluten, I like meat, I like vegetables, as long as they come from a good source. Like, I try to buy organic as much as possible, or mostly try to work with local farms in Jackson. I work with this one Cosmic Apple that's I get the farm share with, that I split with my parents every year, and then try to just make a ton of soups or pickle food or freeze it and preserve it as much as I can, so through the winter I can have like local fresh vegetables, and then hopefully find someone that's killed an elk,
Yep.
and try to just eat food that's more normal. But I love butter, I like fat, like I'm not afraid of any of that stuff. I think it's way more important just to eat real food that's not full of crap.
Yeah, totally. I totally agree with you with how backwards, our society lives, especially when you spend time in the city and you see how people live, like in Crested Butte. And like, there's some fast food I think in Jackson, but like, it's pretty minimal for the most part. Correct me if I'm wrong, but
it's very minimal.
Yeah, it's like, it's crazy when you drive into the city and you see how many fast food restaurants there are all over, and like, when you know what's in it, and like, yeah, it's not only is it not good for the people, it's also not good for the environment. Do you have any morning or evening routines that you do every day that you think like lead you to success, or put you off on the right foot, or allow you to like have allowed you to become the person that you are today?
Yeah, I think routine is actually really important, and for a while there I lost my routine. I was just kind of a vagabond chasing storms, going everywhere, and kind of lost this level of self-care, because it was just like charge all the time, wake up early, go drink beer after skiing, go to sleep whenever, like stay up late chatting with your friends, and then on 4 hours of sleep wake up the next day and go again. And my body just could not handle that for so long. And so recently I've been introduced to Ayurvedic medicine, and which is just a very ancient form of Indian healing, and it's a big premises on routine and healing through diet and meditation. And I'm actually just finishing a Virachana cleanse, which goes deep into your tissues and gets all the toxins out. Also from traveling, there's like a ton of parasites that we come in contact with. And so yeah, the morning routine, I think, for my success has been, waking up at the same time every day. And then I immediately go and brush my teeth. What a lot of people don't realize is your body does this natural detox in the night, and all of, when you wake up with bad breath, it's because those are all of your toxins leaving your body. So before you even digest any water or anything, it's really important to cleanse your palate and clean your mouth. And then after that, I drink a bunch of warm lemon water just to like restart the system, and I meditate for 20 minutes. I think that forced, ever-present centeredness can be translated throughout your life, and I've seen it from like my flying to my skiing, of just high concentration, and even my motivation to like, I don't know, I'm constantly going. I'm constantly networking with people. I've now shifted my life into speaking for a louder audience as a steward for Mother Nature, and I think that all really was derived from meditation and really grounding down with myself and knowing what I want and what my path is, being really clear with those intentions. And then I actually eat the same thing every morning. It's like fried eggs with spinach and peppers, and it's like my go-to. Whenever we're traveling, I'm like, is there a kitchen? Because I have to be able to cook my own food. When you're on the road all winter long for like just months at a time and you're eating out, I think that can be really detrimental to your health. So cooking is super important for me. I really realized lately is how my whole life I've been like growing my muscles and my bones as an athlete, and have kind of neglected the attention to the gut and to my organs, which need like that really mindful intention to heal and to operate at a ultimate level.
You talked about the inner voice. Do you do any sort of meditation?
Yeah, for sure. I I definitely try and get into a quiet meditative state from time to time, especially when there's something big on the horizon or I'm making big plans. Um, I was fortunate last year at the North Face Athlete Summit. We had Wim Hof, the Iceman,
Yep.
came and met with us and taught us some great things about breathing techniques and so on and so forth. And I actually used that when we were climbing Denali earlier this summer, and I feel like it helps for sure.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah,
Angel talked about Wim Hof breathing in our interview as well, and I
yeah.
think he has some really powerful techniques, and obviously, he's accomplished some amazing things, some superhuman things himself. So to be able to learn from him, that must have been really cool.
Yeah, I mean, it's cool to learn from someone like that, and when all the study and the science behind what he's doing is real, you can it just makes it that much easier to buy into it because you almost feel silly at first, when he's teaching you his techniques because it's really just breathe, motherfucker, breathe, as Wim Hof. But there is a lot of science, like they've studied him, and it's pretty amazing what just breathing will do. I think as humans we focus on a lot of different aspects of our health, um, and we kind of forget about the one thing that we're doing all the time, which is breathing, and how much healthier we would all be if we just put a little bit more oxygen into our bloodstream from time to time. One of the things I learned through Wim Hof, and Stanford University studied him on this, is through like a 20-minute breathing session, like being in a relaxed state and breathing, um, with his like method, you can go from an acidic body to alkaline, and alkaline's like non-cancerous, like 100% healthy. You're going to perform better. You're going to be able to do, superhuman things when you have an alkaline body. But when you're acidic, you're basically cancerous, and you're not going to be able to perform at your best. So there's a lot to be said for it, for sure.
I meditate pretty much on a daily basis. Sometimes I'll skip days if I have to wake up at like 4 a.m. And I find if I don't do it, my grounding practice in the morning, it's hard for me to do it at all. But that's just how I work. But yeah, for me, breathing is really a big thing. Chakra work really resonates with me. And so I do a lot of different like chakra visualizations, meditations were in combination with breath work. And so I really like to start out my practice or whatever. Like I always travel with like a little piece of Palo Santo, which is holy wood. And so it acts like sage or whatever, where you light it and the smoke clears away the space and negative energies. And for me, just having that ritual where you're like, okay, I'm going to set aside this time. I'm going to have this ritual of lighting the Palo Santo, and it helps me get into that practice. I think rituals are so important for us because when you practice them time and time again, things get easier to slip into that mind state of grounding, of relaxation. And I feel like the more frequently you do it, the easier it is. So yeah, breathwork's big, visualization is big, and then I usually try and have some sort of like candle or wood or something to help me like my other senses like smell become integrated too, if that makes sense.
Yeah, totally. Speaking of chakra work meditation, maybe kind of a side note, have you ever done an Ananda mandala meditation?
No.
I'll have to send it over to you after.
Yeah.
It's
Please do.
amazing. It's like about 30-minute meditation, and it's to reset your chakras.
Perfect.
And it's like it's almost like a forced hyperventilation. You're breathing
Mhm.
just through your nose, and you're taking
Mhm.
these huge breaths as slow
Mhm.
and as full in and then out super fast. So you end up over oxygenating your body.
Yep.
Like my hands will kind of go numb. Sometimes
Yep.
my hands kind of start to float,
Yep.
and like I have hallucinated the most I've ever hallucinated before
Yeah.
off of this meditation.
Yeah.
So
Sick.
I'll have to send it over to you.
Are you familiar with Wim Hof?
Yes, totally.
Yeah. So it's like his breathing techniques. I wish I practiced more regularly. For some reason, I find that it's like a lot to commit to. I don't know why, but that's what I've experienced with his stuff. And every time it comes back into my like realm of awareness, like that kind of breath work or oversaturating your blood with oxygen. It's so powerful. It's crazy. So thanks for bringing it up. I would love to check it out.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, well, like you touched on, that's the hardest thing about the travel is that it really disrupts your routines. And so for me, finding easy, simple one that I can pretty much do at whatever time and that doesn't take too long. Mornings are my favorite time. They're when I'm the most productive. So it's hard for me because I always want to carve out some time to get grounded and to not be thinking about the to-do list or emails. But then I find if it's too long, then I lose my motivation, right? So it's like this constant battle of like the right amount of time for the right ritual things. But like I said, the Palo Santo, like lighting the Palo Santo and just having at least 5 minutes where I'm just like not thinking about what I have to do, but just kind of focusing on my breath or focusing on my breathing, or sometimes letting thoughts come up and seeing what's emotionally difficult for me at that time. I like to do because sometimes it's impossible to just shut your brain off.
Yeah, totally.
So yeah, the Palo Santo breath work visualization I really try and do every morning. Also, um, I really like starting my mornings off with a cup of lemon water. So I try and travel with lemons because that's like the one thing. If I can get like a big tall glass of lemon water, I feel so much more awake and clear and just like present. So those are the two things that I try to do no matter what.
Okay.
Yeah, and then depending on where I'm at, if I have more time, I like to try and write like 3 pages in a journal, like stream of consciousness, and see what comes up. I don't know if you've heard of the book The Artist's Way, but it's basically about reawakening your creativity and that everyone is a creative being and our lives are essentially our biggest creative outlets, right? So if you can tap in, a lot of people are like, oh, I'm not creative, but it's just a story that we tell ourselves. And it's really important that we realize every day we're creating our life and our story. And so the more you can tap into your creativity, the more possibilities you have at making the life you want to have. Anyways, it's a really great book. I highly recommend it to every single person in the world. I read it last year with a group of friends. It's really good to read with a group of friends because you have to go through this process and it keeps you accountable if you do it with other people.
Do you have any morning routines or evening routines that you like stick to, or rituals that you have to do that like keep you sane, basically? Like I have a morning routine of journaling, and I try and meditate and stuff like that. So
Nice. Well, yeah, I think that for me, when I started my new job, working with Montreal, which is kind of like, I guess, working in marketing, you have this seemingly unconquerable pile of work that keeps like piling up, and last winter in Europe was the first time I ever tried to juggle competing and skiing with work. I'd always just like work in a block and then ski in a block. But this last season I was trying to do both. So it'd be like, I don't know, like, just kind of working every waking moment or standing in a start gate. It was kind of heavy. And I learned that, like it's not really a viable way to be. And my mind got very, very busy. Like I would be like hiking up to a start gate and I'd be like, oh shit, I forgot to email that person back. Like, oh, other samples arrived in Australia, or just like everything that was like completely irrelevant to what I was doing in that moment was just kind of overwhelming me. And that really, like, I think I had my worst ever season last year. Like I just kind of was very much middling, like skiing pretty, not particularly aggressively, wasn't crushing it. And I just think that I just couldn't concentrate on the task at hand. And what I did on the way home from that season was stop for a couple weeks in Indonesia, and I took like a Vedic meditation course.
Sweet.
It was pretty sick actually, and the guy was super interesting. His dad was the guy who brought meditation from India to the West.
Sweet.
And it was quite, I wouldn't say it was like a light bulb moment for me, but it certainly helped me be like a more chill, more like I'm just able to like block things out, like block work out, and just be myself instead of just being like a cog in the wheel of some company. So that's been super cool, and I do that morning and night, and I eat good food, and I like to sleep. That's about it's pretty standard routines apart from the meditation, I guess. But yeah, I really like it, and makes me feel good.
And that's about all we have for you today, folks. I am on a fast right now, so I am losing energy, and I'm having trouble with one of my podcast editors. So stay tuned next week for some brand new interviews with some amazing people, or next week for a brand new interview with some amazing people. And until then, I hope you guys have an amazing week, and happy 4th of July.